This is a power station. So is this, and also this, and all of these. And today I'm going to explain all the random nonsense you would need to know about these, starting with what they are, how they function, and what they can do. Now, besides being a big battery with a 12-month payment plan, power stations have three main stats you're going to be wanting to look for. The first is their capacity, then second is the output, and finally is the input. Now, starting with capacity, you'll notice how on all these power stations they are measured in watt hours. Now, I'm no electrician, so my immediate thought was, watt is that? I'll see myself out. To be honest, you don't actually need to know much about watts to actually get one of these power stations. It's just that it's used to measure everything you're doing with it. This also applies to the output of the power station and input. Now, when looking for buying one of these things, the bigger the capacity, the bigger the price. It's almost a one for one between different brands too on how much you're paying for watts as well. I don't know why they all cost the same, but I think that's kind of weird and probably some shenanigans are going on with that, but who knows. The thing about the capacity of these batteries is that it's really like they kind of like orient what you're getting to what you're trying to do with it. Like, for example, if you're just trying to get a battery bank for like camping, I'd say that any of them that are like 1000 watt hours or below is probably plenty for whatever you're trying to use it for. If you're trying to use it for like your home though, that's where all this gets kind of complicated. You have like you got like 100 of these things and you're just trying to power your home. Okay. Now, going through and seeing what's currently out there right now, you'll notice most of these kind of cap out around 3,000 something watt hours to 6,000 on the actual power station you're buying. And then you're buying extra batteries to store more power for that one power station unit. And the biggest difference between each brand unit after that is kind of the next thing you're going to be looking for whenever you're getting them, second to the amount of power it holds. Now, when specifically talking about output, this is the amount of watt hours the station can put out in an instant, and is also where you'll find that your 1000 watt hour $600 battery bank can't power your AC for more than 30 minutes, if at all. And that's because of how these power stations are making those watt hours. On every power station is an inverter, and on the smaller ones you'll have usually a 120 volt inverter, which is good for your small home appliances and can be used for some bigger appliances for a short time. And on a larger power station, you would normally see like a 120 and a 240 inverter on it, and you would be able to power your house with this. Okay, obviously some caveats there. It's depending on the capacity of the battery. Okay, but 240 volts is what you would want if you're trying to like power your oven, dryer, washing machine for like a short time. And normally speaking, it like depending on the size of the unit, it could also power your entire house. Now that is all that a lot of that is dependent though on the surge capacity of it. Whenever you're starting to use or trying to use one of these power stations, any load being put onto it generally has to be lower than the rating of this. And usually what you'll find is the output of the power station is going to be relative to the capacity. So you can't expect your 1000 watt camping battery to power your oven or big air compressors and other large appliances. But it could power your fridge for a bit, right? Because usually those have like low surge. Usually how this works is when you start drawing power on the appliance, turning it on uses more power than when it is already running. That's the surge that your power station is fighting with at the start of an appliance being turned on. And side note, this is also what normally trips the breakers in your home when you put too much power through a single socket. And this is kind of where you have to play some math, and I'm going to kind of explain my understanding of watt hours from what I've been reading into. If you're looking to purchase one of these, you need to find out how many watt hours the thing you're trying to power actually uses, and then you have to see how many hours you want that to run. Here's an example of a formula you can use. It's the power station capacity in watt hours divided by the amount of watt hours the appliance uses, and that's going to give you the run time. And normally you want to subtract 8% from the capacity of the power station when you're doing this math, because usually there's some like conversion losses from the total battery storage to the actual power output of the device. And that really sums out the output for the most part, unless you're specifically looking to power your whole house with these. In that case, I recommend watching this or this. Powering your whole house requires a lot more power, and also a bigger inverter for the most part. It also requires you to be looking into the input of power into these power stations, because when you're trying to power one of these, the input kind of matters. And that leads me on to my next point, which is input. And input is where you can find out if your power station and solar panel setup would actually run or last long term. Because normally when you're looking into one of these bigger systems, if you're wanting to probably run solar panels into it, or you're thinking about it as like a backup power for in case like the grid goes out kind of situation, right? So normally you're going to want solar panels for this, or alternatively you're going to want a proper setup for it getting plugged in and running power through it, right? Now obviously there's a few ways you could do this. If you have a 100-watt solar panel and you have it running for 4 hours, it should charge your battery by 400 watts. Obviously, there's some give and take, and sometimes it's not going to be exact, right? Because, the sky and everything, right? But generally speaking, however many watt hours of panels you have going into this is how many watt hours you're going to be able to store. If you're just getting like a camping battery or something that's just small for like your RV or something, you probably aren't trying to get this massive solar array. But none of these things have been out really long enough for some like hard long-term use studies. And there's a lot of DIY examples out there you could watch videos on and kind of learn from. So I'd recommend, if you're gonna like do DIY, probably look into something like this. And that's all I really can say. And also, I would also like to note that solar panels, I know I didn't cover them in this video, but basically all solar panels are kind of doing the same thing. They're all kind of made by the same people, so you don't really have to look too deep into solar panels. If you have a 400-watt solar panel, generally speaking, it's going to make 400 watts, and it's probably going to last a long time too. There's not like a lot of variance between the solar panels, as much as there's these batteries, which came out relatively recent. And thank you for watching this video. If you have any suggestions for things you'd like to see in the future, let me know in the comments below. I plan on doing more content like this, similar, not exact, and I'm going to try to keep Minecraft up as well. And you have a blessed day.